Chris,
Heath.
the year is almost half over.
And it feels like it passed in the blink of an eye, didn't it?
It all vanished. April and May just vanished. And I feel like I should have a good number of points in our fantasy video game publisher competition.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking about that way more and more now that we have the consequence.
And what a consequence it is.
So hopefully by next episode, which will be in the later half of 2020, if we make it there, we'll go over that. But how have you been thus far?
I'm great. You know what happened this morning to me, Heath? I woke up really early and I couldn't get back to sleep because I was just so excited to record this episode with you.
What, because you were thinking about the discussion topic?
Just the whole lineup of topics has me giddy with excitement.
Okay, good. All right, me too.
So I ended up sleeping all the way into 9 a.m., which is unprecedented for me. Just because I was awake in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Just
tossing and turning.
Giggling to myself.
Yeah.
Remember when we used to do corrections?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to that?
Well, it's because we became podcast masters. We make very few mistakes that need correcting.
It's not that we just forgot to do it. We just became very authoritative.
We became an error-free podcast. You'd be hard-pressed to find an error made, at least in this year.
Well, it just so happened that there was a small error last episode that I just wanted to set the record straight because they're such a small developer and beloved to me. I refer to the developers of the Banner Saga trilogy as Team Stoic.
Stoic, yeah.
They're actually called Stoic Studio. And you also just asked me to spitball, how big are they? And I said, they're obviously
10 people.
Fewer than 10 people. I was close. A quick Google search will tell you they have 13 employees.
Okay. All right, yeah.
And I also wanted to publicly apologize to you for how harsh I was on your bingo card prediction segment.
No, I'm cutting that out. It's fine.
Okay.
Apology accepted, though.
Thanks. If I had known how much it would upset you, I would have kept quiet.
Well, because, we workshop certain things, and just because you don't like how long it takes for me to pull the rabbit out of the hat doesn't mean I've lost the magic.
Okay.
But I'm going to do you a solid and talk about something you actually like.
I know you will. Okay. So that was all I had for corrections. We should probably mention the name of this show. This is Mobius Tubes.
They'll know it sooner or later.
Your favorite video game podcast. And this is episode 41, being recorded on June 7th, 2020.
A historic episode because it is finally the day. And granted, I mentioned when I watched the Netflix series, but it's finally here. All of you Witcher fans, gather round. All of you not Witcher fans, still stick around because I'm about to open up on this. I played The Witcher, and I didn't include which installment it was because I started with The Witcher 1.
Okay. CD Projekt Red's first game back in 2007.
Yes, and I was immediately familiar with the subject matter because The Witcher 1 starts with a cutscene, a very long cutscene, that is expressly episode 3 of the Netflix show. When he fights the...
oh, yeah.
It looks...
The Striga.
Striga, yeah. Although in the game version, it just looks like a big muscle woman monster.
It does.
Where in the show, I kind of liked the design in the Netflix because it's all
that is a very cool design.
Tattery, kind of Wendigo looking thing. But yeah, so you just watch the entire second half of that Netflix episode before you start playing The Witcher 1.
Before you even get to the main menu screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to my dismay, on the PC, I had my Xbox controller at my side, ready to play this game.
Yeah.
It does not support Xbox controller.
That's right.
So I had to do keyboard and mouse. Once you actually start the game, Geralt, who does not look like Henry Cavill in that first installment, doesn't even look like...
human?
Look like Wild Hunt in the first one.
Yeah, those first games' faces are very low budget.
What is Geralt supposed to look like? He's got blondish white hair. He's got big old snake eyes.
Yeah.
And he's got a grovelly look. He himself is very stoic. Shout out to Banner Saga. And then, correct me if I'm wrong. He is kind of wisecracking, so he's not super stoic.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what kind of situation he's in.
Right. The first situation he's in, he's just running towards the camera, and then he collapses, and Vesemir, or no, one of Vesemir's buddies, you know, the guy with the bad eye kind of thing.
Okay.
Geralt wakes up in the back of a wagon, also hearkening back to the Netflix thing where Geralt collapses and is in the back of a wagon. He gets brought back to Kaer Morhen, which is the Witcher's house, and Vesemir's there. Vesemir is the Witcher's top dog.
Yeah, he's like the mentor figure.
Yeah, and he is like, oh man, Geralt, what happened? And Geralt is like, I don't know, I lost my memory. And I'm like, okay, maybe back in 2008 this was still a fresh idea. But Geralt has no memories, which is really funny because I have no memories of what The Witcher is supposed to be.
Gotcha.
Suddenly Kaer Morhen is attacked by a bad mage who looks like a burn victim.
Okay.
And he brings with him a big praying mantis.
Yeah, he does.
Well, first some grunts come in through the gate. And it's like, oh, let's pick up your sword, Witcher, you know, and show them how the White Wolf cuts people in half. And you pick up your sword. Immediately, Geralt has, and this is awful for the podcast, but he has his hands above his head.
You're so right.
Swinging the sword as if that was a realistic sword stance. Imagine hitting a piñata that is too high above your head, and you have to click when the cursor lights up with a kind of rhythm game mechanic.
Yeah, okay. So I was remembering that correctly. It is kind of like a rhythmic mouse clicking combat system.
Yes, and if you click the right moment, it'll be like second strike, and you'll hit him again. There is no intrinsic dodging or there is parrying, but for the most part, you just stand next to your target and just look at the cursor. Don't look at the battle that's happening around you. You need to focus on this rhythm game. So after I finish this first combat encounter, and my immediate thought is, oh no. They run up the ramp, and Vesemir goes, Geralt, you need to go to the back of the castle and drop the gate to keep more people from coming in or less people from coming in. I don't know. And you run off and you start being greeted by different enemy types. The armored one and the fast one. And there's archers that'll shoot you and you do have to dodge.
How is dodging handled?
Oh, it's just you hit left or right.
Oh, okay.
It's not a roll. I mean,
No.
You double tap for a roll, but I was using keyboard and mouse, and this is the controls are abysmal. We're gonna get to the good game, folks. Don't you worry. The fun you have to have is if you enjoy stance switching and rhythm mechanics. Eventually, you get the gate closed. And you have to follow Triss down to the magic lab, and she teaches you your first sign. Chris, tell them what the signs are.
Signs are just small magical hand symbols the Witchers are able to do.
Because the Witchers are magical, but only a little bit.
Right.
It's
They're
like
not
getting fun 23andMe results. It's like, oh, you're a little African. You're a little Japan.
Right. They're not a full-blown mage or anything. But
Right.
They can do force pushes and throw a little fire around, and that's about it.
Yeah. So you learn the first one. It allows you to clear some rocks. You also learn a new stance, which is good for groups, which is really good because the accuracy is so difficult with his cursor. And then finally, you get to a fun decision. Or no, there's also fun dialogue decisions that you can do as Geralt. You can be mostly pessimistic or optimistic toward this plucky newcomer or Triss or Vesemir. And then Vesemir is like, all right, here's the things on the docket. We have this giant praying mantis that's in the courtyard that you can follow me to slay, or you could follow Triss into the lab and stop the burn victim from opening a portal to hell. And I went with the praying mantis.
As did I.
Okay, great. And then I didn't beat the praying mantis.
Oh.
So what's the deal with the praying mantis? He's vulnerable to loud noises.
That's right.
So you go and knock the bell, and I didn't see anything change.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this fight being very unintuitive. It wasn't very clearly represented on what you were supposed to do. And this has been years since I've played the opening to The Witcher 1. So I'm hazy on the details.
Right. I was hoping that I could clear out all the foot soldiers and let my allies kill the praying mantis.
Oh, okay.
Which is called a nightcrawler, excuse me. I think. I know. I'm the Witcher expert here. Yeah.
It wasn't called a shrieker, was it?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm not sure where that name came from.
No. So I don't think I did a single pip of damage to the praying mantis. And that was the moment where I dropped Witcher 1.
And I cannot fault you for that. I am the biggest Witcher fan. To my knowledge, I think the original Witcher game is the only piece of Witcher media I have not seen through. I played it maybe an hour past the part where you dropped it.
Okay. I imagine that you keep playing and you learn who the mysterious mage was, and you hang out with Musak, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I have watched a plethora of Witcher 1 YouTube videos because I feel like that is the only way I can recommend you experience this game.
It's the only palatable form.
Now, to be fair, I hear people really praising the story, but it is just really hard for me to take its story seriously when all of its character models look like Frankenstein, especially some of the bearded NPCs. It's just... It's like an eldritch horror, what you're looking at. And it's just supposed to be like the town crier.
True, but they do all have personalities, despite looking blocky and stoic. Triss had some fun dialogue, and so I was really looking forward to getting to know these characters in The Witcher 3. I skipped The Witcher 2. I don't know why. I hear The Witcher 2 is good.
Yeah.
But I
feel like you can skip that one too.
I wanted to get to the piece de resistance.
The main course.
Oh my gosh. So, The Witcher 3 starts out. You were in Kaer Morhen, so it's like all I know is Kaer Morhen. Oh, Dandelion.
Yeah.
Who I know as
Jaskier.
Jaskier. Yeah. He's like world weary, and he's telling it the tale that must have happened in Witcher 1 and 2. And so I'm like, okay, it seems like he's seen some stuff, but he's detailing what Geralt's been doing. Geralt is hunting after, oh my God, not Triss. Yennefer. Wow. I forgot your waifu. I'm so sorry. So Yennefer is galloping along because she's helping, the king. I want to say his name's like King Lawrence.
Is this
This is Witcher 3.
the Emperor of Nilfgaard?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Vesimir's there. So I'm like, okay, Vesemir obviously didn't die in the second one. He's very old.
He is very old.
And he does take a griffin claw to the shoulder. And I'm like, oh, this is it. He dies. But he's still around. And so's the eye guy. Triss is nowhere to be found. So I'm like, uh-oh.
How deep are you into Witcher 3?
I beat the first boss.
The Griffin?
I beat the tutorial.
Gotcha.
I left
White Orchard. Whiterun, okay. So now are you at the capital or are you out of the capital?
I am out of the I'm at the door that leads out of the capital.
Okay. So as soon as you step through that door, I'd say the game begins proper.
Okay. Well, so this is my tutorial experience. By next episode, I'll have like a full walkthrough.
Sweet.
So Geralt is just running through this tutorial, asking every living thing if they know what lilac and gooseberry smells like. You go to this tavern, and luck would have it, there's a Gwent player in this tavern.
There sure is.
And I am immediately familiar with Gwent. Gwent is the playing card game in this series. You win the game by having a greater total than your opponent. And I'll tell you this, Chris, and I guarantee this is the outcome for most players. I beat the first round, and then I lost a 0-0 tie twice.
Because you had played all of your cards.
I played all my cards. I was like, oh, he has a bigger total than me. I'm going to just keep playing.
So
And then your opponent wins ties. So he won 0-0 for the second and third.
His faction wins ties.
Yeah, and the second and third round was just us playing weather cards.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fog and rain, which they nerf certain types of cards. I still don't understand Gwent.
Okay. It's not supposed to be a super complex game, but taking into consideration when the right time to pass is an important nuance of playing well.
You can't win the first round.
Yeah, maybe it's trying to teach you that lesson.
You have to pass for a loss.
Take an early loss to come back in the finals.
Bait their certain cards until you get like a good card.
I think just this is in general, the Gwent AI, if they win round 1, they kind of throw round 2, and then the round 3 is the finals.
Oh, fun. Okay.
I think that's just a quirk of the AI. They don't really commit to round 2 very hard if they have a win.
I look forward to my next Gwent through. My God, there's a lot of plants in this world.
Yeah, there are. You don't have to harvest all of those.
I'm harvesting everyone I see. Okay, wait. All right, so I'm harvesting, and I'm like, oh, look, there's another bush over there. Let me walk closer to that, whatever that structure is. Geralt suddenly says, a place of power. And I don't hear what he says after that. Suddenly, like a demon comes out. And I just hop on Roach and I get out of there because I don't understand. What are these places of power? They're late game spell.
No, they're like a little monument, and if you go over and hold A to pray at it, it'll give you a skill point.
But there's scary people nearby.
Oh, they might be somewhat guarded. Not all of them are.
I didn't come close to any other places of power.
You should find those.
Okay, so Geralt is a detective.
To an extent, yeah.
He gets hired by the Nilfgaardians, and here's the thing. Because I watched the Netflix show. So I know what the Nilfgaardians are like.
Yeah.
This game does not portray them how they are in the show.
Right. More nuance.
And so I'm playing this game and I'm like, I'm helping the Nazis? What? Because literally, they like murder everyone in Sintra.
That is correct, yes. In the show, they definitely do
they're
that.
like very bad.
They're definitely expansionist.
And then I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, I care about the common man. And I'm like, no, you don't.
I'd say the games portray them in more of a neutral light.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
So the Nilfgaardian mayor is like, help me kill this winged beast. And you're like, all right, I got to go figure out what gender it is. I got to go get some special berries that are smelly to lure
it in, yeah.
Yeah. And here's where I see where the game piques your interest, because those little vignettes of getting to know these characters. This random hunter.
Yeah, the hunter.
He's killing feral dogs, and you find out why he was exiled from the community, having to do with like his sexuality, and then you can take pity on him as Geralt, and you share like war stories. And I'm sure had I played the first and second game, I would be way more invested into how Geralt empathizes with these characters. So you get the special, and then you get like even more special I forget. Wait, no, the hunter he's good at tracking. So he's like, yo, Geralt, here's where you could find his nest, right? Or something like that. Geralt has to literally detective vision follow these footsteps to this crashed bridge up this rock side, and then be like, oh, the Nilfgaardians killed the griffin's mate. That's why it's so pissed.
Yeah.
It embellishes the story, like just this little side quest about kill a monster.
Right.
And so I can totally see why you love the attention to detail that CD Projekt is putting into these little vignettes, like I said. You meet the apothecary lady, who immediately is coming on as a love interest, and I'm certain if you run into her later, or characters that are like her, and you know, there's a lot of human element in this pale-faced, burly witcher. I do these other side quests where you have to find this lady's pan in her house.
Yes, the frying pan side quest is routinely picked apart by the community as being pretty throwaway.
I mean, it was just another an indication of things are not what they seem. It's these fetch quests are more than they definitely color the world. This thing where this well is haunted.
Yes. Was this a... Have you accepted a Witcher contract yet?
What were the Witcher contract?
It's usually someone's...
the Griffin was a contract.
Have you ever had to haggle for the price?
I deferred payment once.
There will be certain mini-boss quests where someone wants you to track down a certain monster. They're offering you a reward, and you get to do like a negotiation, small mini
barter
game.
kind of.
Barter, try to up the price maybe. If you go too high, they'll reject you. You need to find a happy medium.
Right.
You've done that though?
No. I don't
okay.
think so.
Okay.
No, I met this guy, and he's like, this abandoned village is being haunted by this woman. You go investigate, and you have to like dive into a well, find that this lady like hung herself or something, and then she was like missing a bracelet, and then you find a journal in an adjacent house, and I actually had to look up a walkthrough. You have to like wait until noon, and then a noon wraith.
A noon wraith, yeah.
Shows up, and you have to use the sign that keeps it contained in the purple lights.
Yeah, your kind of trap sign.
To make it vulnerable.
Right.
And then hit it with your silver sword.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't kill it, so it disappeared. And then I waited, and I tried to do that again, and it like only showed up for a moment, and I thought it was bugged, and so I left that.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay, I could sit here and figure this out. But Chris told me to leave the tutorial area as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I collected my reward for the Griffin. I got my first upgrade, and I immediately put it into health. I don't think I've died in The Witcher 3 yet.
Okay.
Definitely died in The Witcher 1 to that praying mantis multiple times.
Sure. Yeah.
I did my darndest. Oh, no, I definitely did die in this game.
Oh, what happened?
There was a treasure chest, and the wolves were guarding it.
Wolves are rough.
And I texted you, how do you eat bread?
You did text me that.
And you're like, the G-pad. and so, but I dig it. I'm not riding Roach at all.
You should ride Roach.
I should ride Roach?
It'll speed things up.
Okay, I did ride Roach, and then I got off of him to go talk to this archer who's like, hey, I need you to retrieve this box. We were just some merchants. And you go and you retrieve the box, but you see like there's foul play involved. And then you have to chase the archer who runs away because he's clearly guilty. You have to chase him on Roach. And actually, I've been trained by Red Dead. You throw the lasso over the escapee to
there's no lasso.
You just cut him. So I slash at this archer that's trying to escape. And he's like, psych, I'm not a merchant. I'm actually like I'm going to say another Skyrim word. He's a Tamriel. What's the Nilfgaard versus what?
Probably Temeria.
Temeria. I said Tamriel. Yeah, the Temeria. And you can either let him go, demand payment. I think that's where I deferred payment. But that was my experience with Roach. Roach is slippery.
Slippery. Describe.
I'm so used to Rockstar's horse movement that when I get on Roach and I try to make a turn, he's just pew, just immediately turns on a dime, and he's also got weird startup, which is probably like an actual horse. But
he's a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
How do you find Geralt's movement? Because that is often criticized.
It's fine.
Okay. No big complaints?
Yeah, to be expected.
Okay, cool.
Lastly, because I've been going on for half an hour, after you leave the tutorial, Yennefer brings you, and also there's this guy called the Wild Hunt. Doesn't matter. Yennefer brings you to the Emperor. Before you do that, you have to be presentable.
Yeah.
So they shave Geralt's beard. They give him a bath. You get a fun choose your clothes minigame. During the shaving, this guy comes up to you. This would be commandant, definitely like a late game enemy.
I thought it was just like a butler.
There's a butler character, the shaver, and then the prince of. And he's like, so you're Geralt? Are you who you think we say you are? And Geralt's like, yeah. All right. It's just customary for us to get a record of who you are. And he basically just goes through a list of all, it's the Mass Effect scene where you have to say what you did in the previous game.
Yeah.
And here I am, Chris. I know nothing. I wish I wrote them down, but the prince is like, so what did you do when you encountered the toggle of Blaviken? And you go, oh, I spared him. I couldn't bear to
take his life.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and the guy's like, oh, you did? Really? And I'm being scrutinized for things I have no idea what's happening.
Context.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. There's 3 important things where it's like, he couldn't bear to see the light of day. Oh, I spared that guy. Oh, he was the lesser of 2 evils. And I'm just going like, yeah, I'll take credit for all of this.
Gotcha.
So that was that moment. And I was like, man, at that moment, I was thinking, do I just quit the game right now and boot up Witcher 1 again?
Don't boot up 1 again.
And then that
Don't
praying
do it.
mantis flashed in my mind. And I was like, now let's just mash through this dialogue. So anyway, you exit the Emperor's quarters after he gives you the main quest. And then I walk around the courtyard, and there's another Gwent player on a bench.
Yeah, that guy.
And I turn right around, and I head to the door, because they're going to take you to the main game. And I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So you've been talking for a while, Heath. You've basically summarized your entire experience with the game so far.
So far.
You've left no leaf unturned.
How the Netflix show has prepared me and not prepared me for the video game.
I wouldn't worry too much about those decisions you made without the full context. They're not going to make or break your game.
I know, but those felt like the integral part of the story. They were important enough to dedicate.
Yeah. I think most of them come from Witcher 2.
Fair enough.
But
it's just Commander Shepard being like, yep, I slaughtered those aliens. I spared those aliens.
Right. You were actually much more positive than I feared you might be.
I mean, I enjoy the detective work. I'm not seeking out hunting wolves anytime soon, but once I get this parry stuff down,
right,
and I see the skill tree, and I know what things to take advantage of, I don't give a crap about alchemy or whatever. It's apothecary. Like, what's the potion making?
I think it is alchemy. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. I have yet to see the value in that.
I did not invest heavily in
Just
alchemy.
Big HP.
How liberally are you using the B button to dodge?
No.
No? That was
actually, wait, no, I am. I am using the B button to dodge.
I recommend that.
But it doesn't put me in that advantageous of a situation.
Oh, okay.
I just step back, and then I have to like walk forward and engage again.
I think you can like pivot left or right.
Okay. I just remember I was trying to kill some drowners, and it took every bit of focus.
Yeah, this game, I would say, probably starts out the hardest it's going to be, and as you get upgrades, becomes a little bit easier.
Okay.
Yeah, so this bodes well, Heath, because...
And I'm actively engaged. I remember in the Nilfgaard introduction scene, there's this farmer, and he's like, hey, I'm just a really poor farmer, and I'm willing to cooperate. And the Nilfgaardian mayor is like, how much wheat you got? And he's like, 30 bushels. And it's like, we will only take 20. So it's like, oh, hey, Nilfgaard, you guys are like the good Nazis. And then when you return for your reward, the mayor is like, all this wheat is soiled or something.
Right.
20 lashes in accordance to the governor's code, in which if you give us your wheat and it's bad, you get whipped. And you hear the farmer receiving the punishment off in like a corner of the encampment.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to like go in through the doors, which aren't really doors, to like rescue this guy. But you can't.
No such thing happens.
You're supposed to be buddy-buddy with the Nilfgaardians.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I am invested.
Sweet. Because I'm not necessarily sure I would say I was invested at the point you're currently at.
Oh, really?
I wasn't.
I thought you were sucking, you were drinking the Kool-Aid all day.
Yeah, that's why I was encouraging you to fast forward through White Orchard, because it didn't really do it for me. It was only a little bit after that where I finally got its hooks into me. So the fact that you're already invested means maybe you're going to really like it.
Yeah. I don't give a crap about the child.
The child.
Who's training in the courtyard?
Siri. You know her from the show.
I know her from the show. She has the scream powers.
Yes.
The way I mince words has got to be infuriating for you. So Siri's training. Clearly you rescued Siri in game 2. So I got to train her.
That was
She didn't get actually captured.
That was all in Geralt's dream, right? He wakes up next to Vesemir.
Yes, when they're out on the gallop. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for such a thorough breakdown.
You're welcome.
This is like candy to me.
Oh yeah.
Because this is fulfilling your obligation. I forced you to play this game through the Game Awards predictions.
Yes, and I am enjoying my punishment. Better late than never.
I still need to get around to my punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we move on to what I've been playing?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, it's been a little while since we've seen each other, Heath. And after months of just dragging on with these really long games, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Thronebreaker, they're just taking hours and hours to finish.
Oh, you went with something.
Lately, I've been a game-finishing machine.
Ah.
So I have wrapped up the main quest of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And
I'm licking my lips.
there is nothing to discuss.
No!
So
No.
all I have to say is the Odyssey...
Gimme.
It was the Odyssey that was worthwhile, not the destination.
It was maybe the... What's the saying where it's like maybe the prize was the friend...
The friends we met along the way.
Yeah. I demand a full write-up on the ending of that game. I need to know.
I will tell you a couple things off air.
Oh, no!
No, I'm not going to...
You're robbing them.
There's nothing to say that's interesting about the ending.
That's the point.
No, I have too much other stuff to talk about. The other games I've played.
All right.
So I have finished Thronebreaker, The Witcher Tales.
Yay.
I also finished a Witcher game this week. This was a really good game. And I want to walk back one criticism I had last week about my deck being stale, because lo and behold, I did change it up in that final act of the game. I had to make some changes to deal with the increased difficulty, and it led to some new interesting play styles, and I like that a lot. This is the card battling Witcher spin-off where you play as Queen Meve. And I finished it. I liked it. It's just stood out to me that this game is a cut above what I'm used to for most writing I read in video games.
Whoa.
This prose would be right at home in a Witcher novel. It is no less high quality. It's witty. It's funny.
Cool.
It's to the point. I guess I have a new criticism. That final act of the game, this like final 15 to 20%, you made a good comment I'm going to bring into this discussion.
Yeah?
Remember when you said the worst part of any GTA game is when you've bought everything?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That rings very true in Thronebreaker.
What do you...
The way the upgrade tree has been balanced, entering that final act of the game, I had everything unlocked. Resources were now meaningless to me.
Mm-hmm.
Money, wood, I don't care. So now this final act has all these cool little side battles you can do for these resource rewards.
Yeah.
And I don't care about any of them. So previously, where I was being super thorough and finding all these cool side quests off the beaten path, now I just don't care. I was rushing straight for that final encounter. So that's kind of a shame. I wish they didn't even necessarily need to add more upgrades, just increase the price of the currently existing ones so I had a reason to seek out more resources. Because at the end of the day, a lot of those final optional fights, I had no incentive to play them.
Yeah, the balance of making the optional fights optional. Because if you do like all the optional fights in the beginning of the game when you're most interested, that makes the optional fights at the end of the game that more meaningless. But you can't make them more meaningful by like increasing the price, maybe?
Then they become mandatory.
Then they become requisite, and yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I had been super thorough about optional content up to that point. So I guess my reward was I didn't have to do the optional battles at the end.
It's definitely a balance that we've never seen a game that has been you're doing all the side stuff in the beginning of the game when you're most interested, and then toward the end of the game, you're still driven to do the side stuff because you wouldn't have the resources you need otherwise to complete the game. Yeah. It's tough.
It's tough striking that balance.
Yeah.
So that's my only new criticism. I guess my lasting thing with this game was how well I did the decisions, which is true of all the Witcher games, because of the consequences. So
give us examples.
Here's my favorite example.
Yay.
You're just walking by on this mountain and there's a village you pass by. I could have just walked by it. There was no reason for me to stop here, but I'm curious and the content's usually good. So I stopped, talked to these dwarves, and accepted the side quest from them. I did the side quest. It gets resolved. And right at the end, after I thought we were in the following action, a certain character who was in my party who need not necessarily be there, you had like an opportunity to dismiss him or her earlier on. Because this character was in my party and I did this particular side quest.
Oh, and they were sympathetic to something.
This character does something abhorrent, like really awful, as a result of me doing this side quest. And you're then faced with this choice where
you can
the rest of your
them.
party does not take kindly to this character's actions, and neither do I. So they want you to like banish this character.
Yeah.
For me, this character was the linchpin
of your deck.
My deck. So it's this weird weighing the mechanical importance of this character versus their narrative crimes, and it's I started laughing to myself.
Oh my god.
And you know what? I said, it's cool.
Yeah.
You can stay.
We got to live with it.
Nobody's
perfect.
Your card ability's too good. So yeah, the other characters in my party did not take kindly.
Massacred all these innocent dwarves, essentially. And it's like, Tony's got to go. But Tony is the only counter you have against the Sun Barbarians.
So in response to that, different characters of your party leave.
Okay, fair. And you're like, oh no, you were a moderate counter to a thing that I've already negated.
And all in all, this whole encounter, which I could have skipped by and have never known it would have happened, just made me feel very icky.
Very cool.
And I like that the decision making, like back when I was deciding whether or not to keep this character in my party, it was a no-brainer. Like, yeah, of course I want you. You're great. But they don't spell out all the consequences that are going to arise down the line. Because, of course, that's like in real life. When I chose to make fun of your bingo segment, I didn't know I'd be hearing about it for the next few weeks. I couldn't have accounted for that. And just like in real life, this game doesn't spell out all the consequences that could arise down the line.
Couldn't have accounted for that. Hey everybody, it's Heath in the edit. I'm listening to this guy, and he's saying that he couldn't have accounted for me being upset with him criticizing my bit mid-bit, as if that wouldn't have bothered me. Listen to this guy. I know he's getting a haircut on Tuesday. You think he's just at the hairdresser, and during, like halfway through the cut, if he sees something he doesn't like, he'll just lock eyes with you through the mirror and say, well, I hope you can fix that, and be totally surprised when the hairdresser is pissed and wrecks his haircut out of spite. I can't believe this guy. He's doubling down in subsequent episodes. It's ridiculous. He apologized, which is fair, but you couldn't account for it. It came out of the blue. My God.
So I like that realistic approach to decision making.
So well said.
So that was Thronebreaker.
And that's obviously those things can't happen all the time.
Right.
Because you can't predict all the emergent moments of if you encounter A and B is in your party, then C happens. Because that never happens in like Pokemon.
Right.
Where you encounter like a wild something, but because you have Pikachu's uncle in your party, you can just avoid the fight and get him for free kind of thing. Like that never happens.
Right.
Those just confluence of
variables,
circumstances.
Yeah, it feels very personal to like your playthrough.
It's very cool.
Yeah, so that was Thronebreaker, and I finally moved on to a new game this week.
That you finished?
No, not finished.
Okay, I thought I was carrying the theme.
I'm in the opening hours of this one. Another game that just coincidentally stands out to me as being very well written. No cards in this game.
Okay.
Heath, I've been playing Disco Elysium.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. This is the back scratch episode. So I tell Chris how much I enjoy his love child that is Witcher, and then Chris is about to tell me how validated I was by not caring for the most popular indie game of 2019.
Disco Elysium. Okay.
Go.
Here we go.
Yay.
I told you this is going to be a fun episode.
Yay.
So I'll
tell you how this game starts. All right. So
let me open this.
Damn.
I've been playing this game for 3 kind of reasons. 1, it won so many awards last year. How could I ignore it?
Yeah. It won all the BAFTAs.
Right. 2, I've been meaning to like dip my toes into this subgenre of RPGs, the computer role-playing game, which previously I just have no experience with. So this seemed like an approachable way to enter the subgenre. Maybe it's not quite as complex as like a Divinity Original Sin, but
yeah, computer role-playing game, meaning there are decisions you have to make based on the investments and skill. Your build.
Right. They're like,
and there's dice rolls.
Yeah, more so influenced by like tabletop role-playing games than a Mass Effect is.
Right.
So yeah, this is my introduction to computer role-playing games. I'm pretty excited about that. Third and final reason, this is a game that front and center, it cares about things like workers' rights and labor disputes. And you play as a cop in this game, which seems particularly relevant to our current times.
Ah.
And it's also a game that's not shy about tackling subjects such as racism or
there's a whole
yes.
Yeah.
So it seems particularly pertinent to right now in history. So I thought it'd be a cool time to play it. Cool is maybe not the right word.
So rad, dude.
Okay, so that's why I'm playing Disco Elysium. Don't spoil his name. That's a spoiler.
Oh, that's a spoiler?
Your protagonist's name?
No.
Oh.
What's it called? Makerhead?
Measurehead.
Yeah.
The racial superiority guy.
Yeah, you have to, the mini game you play with them is
you
ridiculous.
You played a mini game with him?
Oh, okay. So you wake up to the ancient reptilian brain.
Okay, yeah.
This game is such a literary device.
There is a lot of reading in this game. It's a detective game.
And it's good voice acting.
Yeah, not every line is voice acted, though.
Which hurts it so much.
I'm kind of used to it because that's a Persona thing.
Fair enough.
I've kind of conditioned myself to it.
Okay.
So, detective game, RPG. You can pick one of 3 detective archetypes, the thinker, the sensitive one, or the brutish one.
I didn't spend that much time with that.
Which one did you go for?
Intelligence.
Okay, the thinker.
Yeah.
I went with the build your own character option, but my guy is so close to the thinker, he might as well just be the thinker. So yeah, our character's really smart, really perceptive, but when it comes to emotional intelligence and like dealing with people, we're pretty garbage at it.
Just like in real life.
Yeah. Also,
for me at least.
Our like physical health is not doing so hot. We're pretty frail.
Oh yeah.
So this game immediately has a lot of character to it. And
literally, there's 28 different skills.
26. Yeah.
And they all have a voice.
Right. And these skills, quote unquote, aren't things like
strength. No, wait, they are strength.
There are some strength. They're your personality. They're like the different components of your brain across 4 different categories, which are like agility, physical health,
motorics.
Intelligence, motorics,
yeah. Motorics doesn't get a whole lot of play.
My motorics is pretty high.
But I'm just talking about like the personality of motorics.
Right. It's things like reaction speed and savoir-faire.
Savoir-faire.
Which is your coolness stat.
No. Sorry. I'm thinking of esprit de corps.
Oh, what's that?
That's your cop knowledge.
Gotcha. So I love the granularity of the different components of your personality and how, depending on how you spec them, different ones are increasingly pop up during your conversations compared to others.
Yes.
It kind of feels like members of your JRPG party, except instead of Cloud, it's your authority.
shivers.
Right.
You will actually hear very rarely from electrochemistry.
Oh.
Because you didn't invest that much effort into it.
Yes. Because my persuasion is so low, I'm not swaying anyone to my line of thinking. No.
No charisma.
I have no charisma. I'm like a very bookish nerd type.
Yeah.
So
you're also playing
I'm also
Disco
playing
Elysium.
Disco Elysium. So I hear a lot from my encyclopedia, who gives me like interesting.
I hear a car rolling down the street.
And then it suddenly tells me all about the car's make and model and like what its reputation is.
Because you know trivia like that.
Yeah, it fills in like the lore of the world.
Don't you wish the whole game was this fun?
We'll get there. And I hear a lot from my rhetoric, which is like I can logically beat someone in an argument, but because my persuasion is so low, I don't actually swing them to my line of thinking.
Right.
Or my visual calculus is really high, so I can reconstruct the crime scene based on tire tracks.
Speaking of a shattered window.
Right, yeah, shattered window. I found out I threw my shoe through
Didn't
there.
you think that was like an actual crime that happened, but you really just threw your shoe out in a drunken rage?
Which, like the game's character,
This is great.
it's really quirky.
Yes.
Clearly, the writing staff on this game had a lot of fun with it because you can say ridiculous shit.
Yeah. You look at a light switch and there's something funny to be had just by, analyzing that.
I went up to a mailbox and patted it on the head.
Yes.
And it increased my morale.
Your morale. I was going to say, sympathy went up or something.
Clearly, this game is like subverting some expectations.
And you could have kicked the mailbox too.
What happens then?
You take the health damage.
Oh, okay. I can't afford to take health damage.
No.
Because I'm very frail and I have very low morale. I have died frequently in this game. And maybe die isn't the right word. I have like quit the police force because I only have one morale hit point. That's all I've got.
I'm very familiar with that, yeah.
I haven't actually had health drop to 0, even though my health is only like 2 hit points.
Yeah, just try. Be wary of jumping.
Jumping? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're referencing.
You could just tear your ankle.
So this is the quirky kind of game where you take damage by sitting in an uncomfortable chair.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
So like clearly we're having fun discussing this
When does that
game.
happen?
It's pretty. It was early on in my playthrough at least.
Yeah. Oh, the boss. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't meet him until way late.
Oh, he was the first thing I did.
Oh, really? Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of fun to be had in just like your room.
It took me a long time to get out of my apartment room.
So long. You see another person like 50 minutes later, and you're like, ooh, dialogue.
Right. So I should mention, initially, I was a little off-put by this game. I didn't really know what to make of it. It was a little frustrating being trapped in my apartment room for so long just because I didn't think to put on my pants, which is where your key is to exit.
Can't you hold down tab to highlight everything?
It'll highlight everything that's like interactable in your environment. True. But now that I've gotten my Disco Elysium sea legs and I know what I'm doing, I'm really liking the game. I'm sorry, Heath.
I knew you would. I said you would.
I am really enjoying my time with it. One reason is time management. It turns out, Heath,
That's right.
I'm a time management junkie. Just wherever it crops up.
Man,
Persona,
yeah.
day management, Disco Elysium, conversation management.
Yeah.
I love managing time in video games. So there's an in-game clock in this game, and it progresses when you are in dialogue with people. Every time you make a dialogue choice...
Were you walking around too?
I think it's certain activities only.
Okay.
I think if you just let your guy do his idle animation in a street.
With something.
Yeah. So every dialogue choice you make advances the in-game clock by like about a minute or so.
Yeah.
And as the day wears on and it goes past 9 p.m., people go back to their home and go to bed. So there's no one to talk to anymore. Right. So that means you have to like weigh which dialogue options are worth pursuing. There's an opportunity cost to picking certain ones.
Yeah. And so are you telling me that you just bypassed the gardener immediately?
I think I did talk to her.
Okay.
But briefly. I didn't want to waste too much time on her because I like that it's subverting my usual dialogue expectations in video games. Because what's my immediate impulse whenever I start a conversation with someone?
You placate their...
I was going to say I exhaust all the dialogue options because that's what I've been trained to do in other video games for years now. Because if you go through every dialogue option,
I mean, what if like certain dialogue options are like F you and you take their money? Kind of.
Oh, usually those are kind of mutually exclusive ones.
Oh yeah, okay.
So what I'm saying is, to get all the useful tidbits of information or all the little rewards that are in store for you,
right?
You want to like talk about everything.
Okay, and here's where we get divisive.
Okay,
because I didn't exhaust every single like, is that your dog? Kind of, I kind of wanted to get to the meat and the potatoes of the conversation, and so later when I'm desperate for a level up, I had to go back and just jump in randomly into this and be like, so tell me about your poetry.
Oh.
Just for the XP.
So this could come back to bite me in the butt because I'm not exhausting dialogue options in Disco Elysium because I care about the time. If I think going down a certain conversation avenue with someone is not going to be super useful, I skip over it because I don't want to advance the clock unnecessarily. So that's what I was going to praise it for, making me weigh dialogue options more so than in most other video games.
Okay, so...
But you're saying...
I mismanaged my character.
Okay.
And I could not get the body off of the tree.
I have yet to do that.
That's like a mid-game... That's a
mid-game?
That is the centermost point of the game.
Interesting.
Once you get him down.
You would think inspecting the crime scene would be like the first thing you do.
Yeah.
But it's just...
I mean,
it's so rotten.
Kuno is like my first get to know him.
Okay. Yeah. I think that was the case for me.
But, so I mismanaged my character to whatever extent.
Yeah.
And I didn't really discover drugs until later in life. I also, in the game... Wait. Don't do drugs. You can buy alcohol and cigarettes. Cigarettes increase like your poise, and alcohol increases your strength, but decreases your motorics. And so, like, I kept failing skill checks early on.
Okay.
Which barred me from doing them again unless I leveled up. I wouldn't discourage you from doing your current play style for fear that you'll end up in a power gap later on.
Uh-huh.
Because you do want to trust the clock. There are some time things that you do want to prioritize.
Right. Already I've encountered a situation where in order to meet with a certain person, it has to be a certain time of day, things like that. And yeah, and like you said, leveling up certain skills means they're more likely to result in a successful skill check in conversations, which is a dice roll, which is very like tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that about it because based on your character build, conversations can play out very differently. And that's like a hallmark of game design I love. It's why I like immersive sim games, because there's multiple solutions to any given problem, and you get to be creative about how you navigate that issue.
So the issue is that you're a detective and there was a crime.
There was a homicide.
There was a homicide. You got to figure out who did it, and everybody's acting shifty.
Right.
No one is telling you outright, I saw a shadowy figure.
Yeah. You're interfacing with a big, fat, corrupt union boss, but also playing off of like the greedy, rich capitalist woman.
Very much so.
No one seems like a virtue of justice here.
Did you take the bribe?
I've been taking bribes left and right.
Chris! Oh, you socialist pig.
We'll get to the socialism part in a second. But I like that depending on certain decisions, it affects future dice rolls, because there was a certain thing where I had to maintain my composure, but I had a negative modifier because I had accepted a bribe.
Yeah.
So yeah, these aren't just like...
And they're so well written too.
They are, yeah. It is well written. You can say some really off-the-wall stuff. The writers just give you if you want to go for it, they just give you a field day.
They have they are able to do serious conversation, but also like the most tinfoil hat nut stuff.
Right. I walked into a bookstore after noticing the bookstore owner's kid was like advertising outside, and I walked in, and the first thing I say to this lady who runs the bookstore is, I'm here to disassemble the establishment and abolish child labor. Because I'm leaning into the communism, the path here.
I was pro-capitalist.
Interesting. And here's a mechanic I really like, your thought cabinet.
I didn't like that, though.
Oh, okay.
I told you I didn't like that.
I think you did say that. As the game detects that you are leaning into certain ideologies, be it communism or
embracing your cop persona,
right,
or adopting just straight up nihilism.
Okay, I haven't found that one. I've also found a proclivity to use finger guns is one I'm very fond of. So let's use the finger gun as an example. The game will ask you, here's a thought you can like stew on for a while, and it's going to take a certain allotment of in-game time.
Very much so.
And you have a limited number of thoughts you can process unless you level up your thought cabinet. So each one is like there's an opportunity cost of selecting this thought, and there's over 50 in the game, and they get really funny and weird.
Yeah.
So I wanted finger guns because that sounds like a riot. And
because you don't know what in-game properties that thought will have aside from just the general feeling of it.
Yeah, you have to take time to internalize the thought before it fully manifests itself.
I don't remember precisely, but I'm pretty sure the finger guns one gives you greater volition, or it probably like boosts your morale capacity, but at the cost of authority.
So as you're thinking about finger guns, sometimes thoughts have like a temporary effect. And for finger guns, it is a -2 modifier to your savoir-faire, which is your coolness. So I'm just thinking, this is like my headcanon, that because your character is like so preoccupied thinking what he should be doing with his hands during conversations, his coolness suffers. Now the game doesn't tell you that.
He's just standing there, not sure when to deploy the finger guns.
Right. Yeah. He's like unsure of himself. And so his coolness suffers.
And that's why in-game.
That's why you're taking the hit to your savoir-faire.
And who's your partner? Kurosawa?
Kim Kitsurugi.
I love Kitsurugi.
I like him too.
He's so good.
He's like very much the straight man, but I like him a lot. But then once you finally unlock the potential of finger guns, that savoir...
Well, yeah, once you've nailed the thought.
Once you've like processed
it has stewed for long enough.
You get a positive +1 to your reaction speed. And then...
Oh, that makes sense.
Also, if you have nothing in your hand slots, you're not carrying anything, your suggestion goes up. Because people are just so enamored by your finger pointing.
It makes you more charismatic.
Yeah. So
you're more charming. Oh my God, perfect.
But here's the thing. When you decide I'm going to think about this thought, you don't know what the end result could be. It could even be a negative modifier, which is kind of a risk-reward thing. Yeah, because it takes a skill point in order to clear it and forget it.
Yeah.
So it's a risk-reward, but I'm having a lot of fun gambling on these thoughts.
It's fun.
I've been told I had the option to think about becoming a sad cop, but I turned it down. No, not a sad cop, a sorry cop. Because I apparently have been apologizing too much.
Oh. Right, because your personalities will come along and be like, hey, Chris, listen, you've been doing a lot of apologizing.
Yeah.
Let's see how far this could go. What if you became the sorry cop? And then you either like affirm or deny,
right,
which unlocks the thought in your thought cabinet. This game is so cool on paper.
It's really quirky. I am enjoying it both on paper and in practice so far. I'm only 8 hours in. I am at the end of the first day. Maybe.
Wow. All right. Yeah.
Maybe as things
you have not
proceed,
contacted the police department yet.
I've talked to them on the radio.
Okay, that's embarrassing.
It is. I've never had such an embarrassing phone call in a video game.
You need to be. And it's constantly like, "Where's your badge?" And you're like, "Oh no, I don't have my badge." And it's like, this idiot doesn't have his badge. Oh, I bet he doesn't have his gun. And then it's like, you don't have your gun because your personality is shouting in all caps like, you're done.
Right.
It's so much fun.
Clearly, there are aspects of the game you did appreciate.
You know, I appreciated it. I just felt like
overrated.
Okay, well, ready?
The soundtrack doesn't bother me yet.
It's so grating on me.
Really? Okay.
It just mocks me because I'm constantly sprinting. I'm collecting these cans.
Right. Money is hard to come by in this game.
You are a broke cop, and you're constantly asking the department, "Can I have a stipend for this investigation?"
I no shame ask everyone I meet if they will give me money. So
Great.
that's all I have for my initial impressions of Disco Elysium.
Great.
It is a breath of fresh air, I would say, so far, just compared to most RPGs I play. And I like it a lot. And that's what I've been playing this week.
All right. We should take a break now.
Yes, we should. We've been going hard.
Give you a second.
And when we come back, we'll have a gourmet meal prepared.
Yeah. It's just a delicious meal, as Chris would put it.
Uh-huh.
So we'll see you then.
See you then.
We're back.
I see you're nourishing yourself on chips, Heath, which is very appropriate because
That's what I did.
we've made it to the part of the show where we have headline dining.
Ba-da-bam.
This is where we present you with spicy entrees and tasty sides for this week in video game news. Entrees are stories where there's a little more to unpack, a little more meat to digest there. And sides are, worth mentioning, but maybe there's not a whole lot to say. So for this week, we thought we were going to have the spiciest of entrees. We thought we were going to be discussing PlayStation 5 news.
Right.
That'll be forthcoming at a later episode. But I've come nonetheless prepared with a different story. Now, at first, Heath, you're going to probably say to me, this doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But I'm going to try to inject the spice into the story for you. So here's your entree.
Yeah. Serve it up.
Just on June 4th, a couple of days ago, unceremoniously, EA released a lot of the games they've put on their...
They announced that they were...
they've actually done that. They've ported a bunch of games that are previously exclusive to their own proprietary store, EA Origin. They've ported a bunch of games
to Steam,
like a dozen plus. We're talking the Dragon Age games, Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition.
The Battlefronts.
Not sure about that.
That'd be their biggest one, wouldn't it? No, FIFA's their biggest
probably
one.
That.
Yeah.
They've brought some Need for Speed games, Burnout Paradise, Crisis 3, some Plants vs. Zombies games, and a couple of their EA originals like Unravel and Unravel 2 and Sea of Solitude. So they called it their first wave. There are more EA Origin exclusives coming to Steam in the future. And that's all well and good. These are older games. It seems a little random. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Here's for full context, people who aren't intimately familiar with how games are sold on the PC. Steam is pretty big. You can buy a lot of games on Steam. And for a while there, EA is one of the bigger video game publishers. They make the Mass Effects and the Titanfalls.
And the FIFAs.
And for a long time, they were totally cool putting their games on Steam. Like on Steam, for the whole time Mass Effect 1 and 2 have been out, they've been on Steam. Same with like Dragon Age Origins.
Are you telling me
on Steam.
If I want to play Mass Effect 3 prior to this, I'd have to go to the EA store?
On PC, yes. Mass Effect 3 never released on Steam.
Bogus.
So circa 2011, 2012, when games like Dragon Age 2 and Mass Effect 3 were coming out, EA said, you know what's a cool idea? Let's make our own store. We're going to migrate away from Steam. We're making this thing called Origin.
I hate when they do that.
And we're putting all of our games on there, and that's where you have to go to get them. Why did they do that? Because they get a bigger cut that way.
Big money, but then we have to do like another login.
Right, another login. And now, starting with just last fall, with the release of Respawn's Star Wars, what's it called? The new Star Wars. Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. EA said, going forward, we're bringing our games to Steam. So that one launched day and date on Origin and Steam.
Interesting.
And now they're like backing up their claim. They're porting more things over. They said this was the first big wave. Maybe in wave 2 we'll finally get Mass Effect 3 on Steam. That's not there yet. So you're probably saying, Chris, this is more of a side than an entree, but here's where things get spicy.
Oh.
Let's take a current status report of the PC launcher wars, because things have been shaken up ever since Epic landed on the scene.
Yeah, if you pass the baton to me right now, I'll tell you all about the Epic games that I've been getting for free on every Thursday.
Sure, which is a feature basically only Epic does, just giving away games for free on a schedule.
Yes, because they couldn't rival Steam's massive sales.
And robust features.
Or like achievements. Like, you don't care that much about Steam achievements, right?
I care about them.
Ooh. I knew you did.
But even things like, I don't think you can have a wish list on the Epic Games Store. And I don't think you can like gift games to your friends.
No shopping cart, no.
Yeah. And then there was concerns about data breaches and like your info isn't as secure on the Epic Games Store.
I mean,
You've already that ship has sailed.
I've already given Tim Sweeney my social security
number.
You've
already sold your soul.
Yeah. So I got GTA, that's old news. I just got the Borderlandses for free.
Those are cool.
And then I got Overcooked 1.
Hey, I have Overcooked 1 and I've never played it.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try that
we
co-op.
Could. Yeah, we could really test our friendship that way. I'm looking forward to the next Thursday game. I log into Epic Games on the regular now. So, but I have my Steam account, and those two giants are neck and neck, I would say. I'm passing the baton
back to me. Okay, the PC launcher wars. What's the status of buying digital games on PC these days? And I think it's really weird. Let's look at Ubisoft, okay? They have, much like EA, they have their own proprietary store. It's called Uplay. And for the longest time, they played nice with Steam. Games would come out on Uplay, yes, but everything from like Assassin's Creed Syndicate to AC Origins to Far Cry 5 would all launch day and date on Steam as well. You'd have the choice between the two. And it was EA who didn't play nice with Steam. And all of a sudden, the script has flipped because Uplay is not playing nice with Steam anymore. And I wasn't fully aware of this until Assassin's Creed Valhalla brought it to my attention. If you look at the platforms Assassin's Creed Valhalla is coming to, they very prominently list Uplay in the Epic Games Store, but no Steam logo is seen.
Oh.
And then I thought, wait, is this like a new thing that's happening? And then I looked over 2019's Ubisoft releases. And this is why it flew under the radar for me. There weren't super high-profile Ubisoft games. They delayed a lot of their projects, like Watch Dogs 3. Last year, they released things like The Division 2 and this strategy game called Anno 1800 and the very buggy Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And guess what, Heath? None of those games are on Steam. They're all Epic Games Store and Uplay exclusives. We're used to this Epic Games Store exclusivity window of about a year. But even though things like The Division 2 have been out since February of 2019, like well over a year by now, there has been no hint of a release on Steam. Seemingly, these are like maybe even permanent Epic exclusives.
Are they taking a run at Gabe Newell?
They could be. I don't know the reason behind this.
Trying to dethrone the Gabe?
Simultaneously, suddenly EA...
They would make bank if it was on Steam.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I'm baffled as to why EA looked at their financial books and decided it makes a lot of sense to suddenly play nice with Steam, while Ubisoft came to the opposite conclusion.
Yeah, they do-si-doed.
They do-si-doed. Then there's this whole new other element, Microsoft. You know, they make console games. Increasingly, they're expanding their foothold in PC.
Are you going to mention the Microsoft store, what's it called? Something like Star Online?
Phantasy Star Online?
Star.
I'm not mentioning Phantasy Star Online.
Good.
But all of a sudden, I think starting like last year...
We have one fan listening that had just heard that and you broke their heart.
I'm sorry, fan. I don't know anything about Phantasy Star Online.
I very little, yeah.
But Microsoft, all of a sudden, their games are coming to Steam. The Halo Master Chief Collection.
Yep.
And just on June 3rd, a few days ago, they brought over Sea of Thieves. That now has a Steam page. You can buy that there. Other things like Gears 5 and like Sunset Overdrive came to Steam.
The games manufacturers decided that putting their games for sale on a computer makes money.
They did decide that.
But
what I think
which money do you want to make?
Yeah, it feels like these are the powers of Europe signing the alliances right before World War I.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like Scramble for Africa, and they partition which side of the PC landscape.
No, I see
just replace the continent of Africa with like a desktop.
No, I was thinking like the powder keg of Europe, where
Okay.
suddenly this coalition is forming, where
Yeah.
seemingly out of nowhere, EA and Microsoft are like super buddy-buddy with Valve and Steam, while meanwhile, Ubisoft is defected
Okay.
and signed this blood pact with the Epic Games Store.
Ubisoft is Austria. Wait, no. Who's the bad guys? Serbia. I'm doing a World War I reference.
I would love to see the backdoor shady deals happening between these companies,
Yeah.
how they draw the line of who they do business with.
Still great for the consumers, right?
Yes
Surely.
and no, just because
Although you want AC Valhalla on your
I want
Steam.
it on. I want every game on every platform.
I'm crossing my fingers that I just get it for free.
True. Oh, I love Creative Assembly. They make the Total War games.
Yes, thank you.
One of the games on my fantasy publisher draft, Total War Saga Troy, they just got buddy-buddy with Epic Games Store. When that game launches in August, for the first 24 hours, it
Got
is
a free
free.
weekend. Yeah.
No, free to keep.
What?
At the game's launch on Epic Games Store only, it is a free to keep game as long as you activate the key.
Launches.
It launches free.
Whoa, for the first 24 hours?
Yeah.
That's going to have a tremendous launch day.
Right. And they're not going to see money from consumers.
They're
because
just getting Epic's payout.
They're just getting Epic's payout.
which rivals how much they might get from consumers.
Right.
I mean, everybody
yeah,
wins.
We don't know.
Everyone wins but you.
Everyone wins but me.
Yay!
Yeah, so that's taking a big bite out of Steam's lunch because Total War games traditionally sell really well on Steam.
Yes, they still top the charts sometimes.
So there are these volleys back and forth. I think it's a fascinating time. I don't know how much to attribute this all to the Epic Games Store, but I think a majority of the blame resides on Epic for all these shakeups.
They got hands in the coffers.
Right.
Because Fortnite's still doing well despite Warzone. Have we talked about Warzone? I was about to go into a side just now.
The Call of Duty Battle Royale mode?
You want to step away from this entree and go to the mashed potatoes?
Well, just one last little twist.
Sure.
CD Projekt Red, for some reason, decided to take a firmly anti-Epic stance. They've said things like,
we're going to have the most Steam achievements of any game.
when Cyberpunk 2077 launches later this year, it is a Steam-timed exclusive. It comes to the Epic Games Store later, after Steam.
Tricky.
So they're doing like the reverse of what you usually hear about.
Tricky.
All right, so that was just...
This exclusivity is rivaling Nintendo.
Yeah.
Oh my God, your face was like, go on. And I was like,
did you have anything else?
Just kind of making things, relegating things to certain platforms. When you say that, I immediately think of how you can't play Mario on anything but a Nintendo.
Gotcha.
He's the poster boy for exclusivity. Not Master Chief anymore.
No, he plays with
Commander
anyone.
Shepard.
Commander Shepard will let you play with him anywhere.
Joel, I can play with Last of Us Man on my calculator.
Okay. You'll have to show me.
So interesting to see. What are you anticipating? That everyone's gonna either choose a side?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how firm these alliances really are, how long they last. If the Epic Games Store exists 5 years from now.
They have to. They have to.
My fingers are crossed they don't.
Oh my gosh, Chris. You're like wishing for Santa to retire.
Yeah, sorry.
That's so mean. All right. While we're on the topic of Epic, you mind if I talk about the recent Fortnite contender? I say recent just because I've heard about it recently.
I think it's a couple months old.
Sure. So Call of Duty Warzone is the free Battle Royale version.
Yeah.
They're taking a run at PUBG and Apex Legends because those are the contenders in the non-Fortnite Battle Royale
weight class.
Weight class. Thank you. Yeah, weight class. That's way more fun. How much do you know about Warzone?
Very little.
Okay, because they changed it up.
Okay.
If you die, because it's Battle Royale, and I think the lobby is a little bit bigger. I think it's like a 150 instead of 100 or like 200. If you die, you get captured.
Oh.
And a little cutscene plays where you're being dragged into a gulag. You know what a gulag is, right?
Really? This is in a multiplayer game?
This is Modern Warfare. The gulag fits right in.
Okay.
you get brought into this and you get thrown into like this like bathhouse arena where it's just like it's like a shower scene where there's like pilasters and it's all tile and faucets, but it's this little 1v1 arena. And you hear the announcer go, the winner gets back in the game. The loser is done.
Oh, you have a second chance.
If you kill your 1v1 opponent, you immediately parachute back in.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that great? Because, like, as soon as you die in Battle Royale, you just immediately quit out, leave, join next lobby.
It's like the last stand perk has been replaced with a minigame.
Yeah, and it's fun.
That is interesting.
Yeah. And here's the fun part. Everyone else who's waiting for their gulag match is like spectating into this bathhouse, and they can throw rocks to cause sound diversions.
Uh-huh. Oh.
And if your squad mates are up there in the peanut gallery, they can just tell you that, like, oh, he's on the left.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
They can just look in and be like, yeah, go right.
Now, are these your dead teammates?
If they got killed, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
They will enter the gulag, yeah.
So Warzone isn't the first Call of Duty Battle Royale mode.
No, this follows Blackout.
Did the release of Warzone just kill the player base of Blackout?
No, Blackout killed Blackout. They ruined it with microtransaction-y sort of things.
I see. Interesting.
That's how they ruined it.
I have a feeling Warzone, because this is the first free Call of Duty Battle Royale.
Yeah, if you boot up Call of Duty, you will see Warzone in the middle, and then to the right of it is the main game.
Gotcha.
The multiplayer team deathmatch.
I guess my suspicion is Warzone should probably have longer legs than Blackout did.
Should, yeah, especially.
I feel like it would be really weird if every year they rebooted the Battle Royale mode of Call of Duty.
No, it wouldn't be weird.
It wouldn't be weird?
No. Why would it be weird?
Just because...
New map.
New map.
New time period. New gimmicks.
Okay.
New kill streaks.
All the other Battle Royale competitors are like this persistent game that that
has like seasons.
That has seasons.
Uh-huh.
While I guess Call of Duty has always done a hard reset every year when the new one comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's not unheard of. It just feels weird for them competing with themselves, kind of.
They might take that into account because come the fall, Battle Royale will probably not be in the zeitgeist.
We can hope.
Yes.
No, it'll still be kicking around.
It'll still be kicking around, but then they'll be like, can we really take a stab at Warzone?
Again.
Yeah. If Black Ops 1,000,000 comes out in the fall, do they really consider it? Gosh, I hope the next Call of Duty it changes it up so crazy.
Rumors are it's Cold War time period.
Well, that's Black Ops again.
Yeah. I guess that wouldn't be the craziness.
Blacker Ops.
Yeah.
Dark gray ops. Okay, so that was my Warzone critique.
You look like you could use another refreshing side, Heath.
Oh boy, past the oh wow, this is like you know the concentration 64? Is that the playground game where you're like concentration
64.
Category is sides. Mashed potatoes. And then you got to keep coming up with sides.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We ought to be great at that. I always played that in the line for Disney World rides. Because there's like a lot of children around.
Okay.
That like get in on it.
Oh, interesting.
And they'll just shout things out. And I'll be like, oh, that counts. So.
This one's a short and sweet one. Maybe you could call it like baked barbecue beans.
Sure.
So I think a couple times we've mentioned the YouTube channel on this show called Noclip.
Oh, yeah?
They make long-form, high production value video game documentaries.
They do.
Run by
George.
a guy, Danny O'Dwyer.
Oh, my gosh.
Is the guy who runs
Danny
it.
O'Dwyer.
I think he formerly worked at GameSpot. Anyway, they released what is probably my favorite documentary of theirs recently. It's called The History of Arkane Studios. And you know I am an Arkane Studios fanboy from Dishonored and Prey.
Yeah. Oh, and Prey. I forget.
Yep. But this goes way back. It shows the whole history of the studio. And they're like...
What, did they treat it like, oh, Nintendo used to make trading cards?
Kind of, yeah. Except they never made trading cards. They just made video games. So they start with like their first release in 2002 called Arc Fatalis and how it's like a cult hit. And then there's this 10-year window that they only released one game in. It's called Dark Messiah or something. It's middling.
Okay.
And then in 2012, Dishonored comes out, and it caught me completely by surprise. I'm like, who are these Arkane guys, and how did they make one of my favorite games ever? And this documentary really digs into what was happening in that 10-year span, where they had three...
They were just working on that whale oil.
No, they weren't.
Oh.
They had three canceled, highly experimental games that are really interesting. They had one partnership with Steven Spielberg, making this game called... let me see.
Ready Player One.
It was codenamed LMNO. It was like this. You busted an alien out of an FBI prison, and you were like on a road trip trying to bring her to safety. And it was like very little combat, mostly dialogue choices, things like that. They did that. They partnered with Valve to make a Half-Life spin-off game called Return to Ravenholm.
I thought you were going to say Black Mesa.
No, that's a fan project.
Okay.
This was like officially sanctioned by Valve. Never saw the light of day.
Okay.
They made a very experimental first-person shooter called The Crossing that was like mixing multiplayer and single player in an interesting way, where people would drop into your single-player campaign as an enemy or something like that.
Cool.
And none of these projects...
In theory.
Yeah. All these projects had their funding cut. It was like tragedy after tragedy.
Yeah, Arkane's never going to make a good game.
But you can see a lot of the Dishonored DNA came from some of these games. Things like the Walls of Light, these electrical gates, those were in the Half-Life game. And they were ported and readapted to the world of Dishonored.
Okay.
And some of the first-person combat that occurs in Dishonored looks a lot like the combat that occurs in LMNO. So it was just interesting to see all these ancestors that had been killed in the womb before we finally saw these mechanics resurface in Dishonored. It was a fascinating video.
Well, shout out to a friend of the show, We Wish. Oh my gosh, Jeffrey, what's his name?
Danny O'Dwyer.
Danny O'Dwyer.
His name even has alliteration. It's easy to remember. All right. Final side, Heath.
Okay.
This one's a sequel to last week.
Yeah.
We got that quarterly NPD report about how the first quarter of 2020 was the highest grossing video game sales ever in the United States. And we both kind of came to a mutual conclusion that this was like unprecedented and the rest of the year will be more or less business as usual.
Yeah.
So the April NPDs came out, tracking video game spending in the United States. Our buddy Matt Piscatella, who works at the NPD group,
Yeah, he
tweets this
them
out.
Yeah.
And every month, this is standard practice, he does a YouTube video further breaking down the stats. I watched this one, and his opening quote for April 2020 was, "I've been in this business for 15 years, and this is by far the wildest 1 month of data I've ever seen."
Whoa.
So April 2020 was another record setter. April 2020 is the most video game spending that has ever happened in a month of April.
Okay.
$1.5 billion was spent in the video game industry, beating the previous record holder, which was April 2008.
Oh, let me guess.
Okay. How much was spent?
How much was spent? Oh, I was trying to say what game would be the impetus for the spending.
Oh, I don't have that data with me.
Oh, damn.
Anyway, this was led by video game hardware, actually. Sales were up for video game hardware 163%
What?
when compared to April of 2019, year over year.
Why? This is before the gen's over.
Yeah, so
What
this
do
is...
people buy? What? This is like cars get invented and everyone starts buying horses even more.
where the car is the new upcoming console.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you look at any other console cycle, this is when you would expect to see that hardware dip and dip hard.
Yeah, because it's worthless.
So that begs the question. I mean, obviously, this is still the effects of the quarantine shelter in place. People are snatching up consoles while they are dying for something to do.
Yeah, because if you go outside, you'll die.
If you go outside, you'll die. Do you think people are buying hardware like crazy this late in the generation? I would expect those people probably aren't traditional gamers.
Oh.
Are we going to see an influx of new people in the hobby due to this world pandemic?
Yeah, assuredly. Yeah.
And I wonder how long they'll stick around. Do they like the games they're playing now?
They'll stick around enough for the lifetime of the upcoming generation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that'll hold their interest.
Maybe. So it's cool that possibly we have this influx of new video gamers coming in late this gen. Other thing, I expect this hardware buying spree to fall off a cliff next month. That's my prediction, because you can't buy consoles right now. They're sold out. If you go on Amazon, buying a Switch or a PS4 is nigh impossible.
Really?
Yeah. At the factories, they're not manufacturing a bunch of PS4s right now because they're manufacturing PS5s.
Right.
And the stock has been bought out by now. Yeah, I think the supply is basically gone.
Are you telling me that if I try to buy a PS4 on Amazon right now, it's got a markup of
It's got a markup and it's used.
Of like $3.99? No, that's the typical price, isn't it?
I lost track.
Yeah. We haven't bought consoles in ages.
I did a quick search right before this podcast episode.
If it's more than $500, that's insane.
There was no price listed on the main screen. And then if you go into like other sellers, they're all used.
Oh.
So it's just the secondhand market.
If you buy a used PS4 for like more than...
And it was going for more than
like
retail.
$200.
It was $380.
That is asinine.
So yeah, it's supply and demand. The supply is gone and demand is still
huge.
high.
Yeah.
So I guess for the time being, game sales are still really, really high up.
I guess so. Yeah, take bets on May, June is the lowest purchasing record.
Yeah, my guess is for May and June, hardware is going to take a steep hit, but I think software is still going to be surprisingly high.
Fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
So all in all, I guess game industry is doing bangers right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that is all I had for this edition of Headline Dining. I hope you're feeling full, Heath.
I am, but we'll just segue into my bit for we each have a bit for this episode.
Okay.
My bit comes from the mind of George Socks. What's his last name? Super Bunny Hop.
Oh, I think it's like Wiseman or Weedman or something like that.
Maybe, yeah. So Super Bunny Hop George,
the YouTuber,
did a review of the Ancestors game.
I have watched half of this video.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I expected you to, but was that because I mentioned George?
No.
At the get-together? Okay.
I didn't know who we were talking about.
No, you didn't.
I'm just a Super Bunny Hop fan.
Oh yeah, everyone should be.
I seek out his content.
Yeah, me too. So, this game came out. Remember when I talked about this game in the single digit episodes, and I was like, this is gonna be so weird. It might be good. Turns out it's bad.
Yeah, but like weird bad.
I was inclined to get it.
Interesting.
Because it's like 50% off on Epic Games, and I have a coupon that's valid until Halloween.
Uh-huh.
So I could have just picked it up for like $9.
Yeah.
But then I watched a video explaining how like the controls are awful and how like the A button is mapped to like 6 different things that are counterintuitive. So I'm not going to get it. And because I'm not going to get it, I had a field day with this video acknowledging all the weird stuff. Okay, so the game itself, you play as the human predecessor primates living between the years of like 10 million BC or 10 million years ago and 2 million years ago. And you progress through that time. It's just you and your fellow primates, and you got to keep the clan going despite consuming resources and incoming predators that would push you to migrate. It has such a weird gamification of anthropology. Things like button presses that you would never hope to expect, because George himself makes fun. There's a ooh ah ah button,
right? And
there's like a give birth button, and it's like really goofy stuff.
Wasn't there a mate button?
Yeah. You just mash that. Anyway, so it's really kind of funny to think of how you would gamify prehistoric man, and I thought we would have a little fun with a segment I'm calling That's Gameplay, in which Chris is tasked with, this is a guessing game. I have 16 flashcards here. He has to guess which elements are in the game or they're things that I've made up. I'm calling them Heathware. You know how like vaporware? Describe to the fans of what vaporware is.
Vaporware is software that never materializes. got stuck in development hell, or
Right.
it's just canceled. You never sees the light of day.
Right. So let's pretend that these are just like ideas that I came up with, but never made it into the game.
Gotcha.
Also, I should mention the director of this game. His name's like super French. He made Assassin's Creeds 1, 2, and Brotherhood.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, I gotta get this game.
your bread and butter.
But yeah, I love those games. But then I saw just how grindy the gameplay was. So I immediately... Anyway, so, Chris, you have to guess, and this will be easy because you've watched some of the video, but
Okay. I have a poor memory.
you'll either say, that's gameplay or that's Heathware.
Gotcha.
All right, so the first one, predators can be defeated with the help of sticks that can be sharpened with rocks.
Oh, that's gotta be gameplay.
That's gameplay. All right, moving on. Build a fire to keep your clan warm.
I think that would be very important for early man. That's gotta be gameplay.
Actually, that's Heathware.
What?
So, if you picked up, I said that the game takes place between 10 million years ago and 2 million years ago. The beginning of humans making use of fire didn't happen until like 1.5 million years ago.
That's too late game.
That's too late game. That's in the
Dang.
epilogue.
That's
yeah.
in the expansion.
Yeah, so there's no fire in this game.
What if lightning strikes?
The tree, it just bursts,
Bursts?
into
Okay.
splinters. No, fire happens, but then a rain cloud immediately comes over and douses it.
I see.
Before the early man can be like, I wonder if I made use of that.
Yeah. Just like real life.
Just like real life. Holding two things at once is an available upgrade.
Ooh, like you're getting better balance, I guess, or more ambidextrous. I think that's gameplay.
That's gameplay. Yeah, so this is, I was immediately thinking of like Queen Maeve, how you have to upgrade her speed to make it bearable. They gamify some of the weirdest things where it's like your primitive brain is so dumb. You have to like figure out that you can take something from one hand and put it in the other with like a button press. These notifications will display on the screen where it's like, you've unlocked hitting.
Hitting.
Yeah, just hitting things together.
That's gated from you.
And like stripping branches. That's like an upgrade.
But you can transfer things between each hand?
That's an upgrade too.
Oh.
Yeah. And like basic communicating is an upgrade. Like body language. It's crazy. So this game is crazy. Eating poisonous plants will obscure your vision. Upgrade your appendix in order to eat them without harmful effects.
There's no way they accounted for your appendix in this game. This is Heathware.
Well, okay. No, that's gameplay.
Oh, okay.
But you said accounted for your appendix. No, they just categorize it under metabolism.
Okay.
But there's definitely like plants that you can't eat unless you invest your skill points.
Sure.
Finger painting on the walls of caves earns you cultural experience points.
I feel like that's the kind of thing you would gamify. I'm going to say that's gameplay.
You got Heathware.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you understand my train of thought, but you were too busy avoiding predators in this game to finger paint.
You don't have time for culture.
If you're not being eaten, you're also trying to find food yourself and flee weather elements. And
This was my mistake. If fire is a higher priority than finger painting, so if they don't have fire yet, there's no way they're painting.
No way they're smart enough to draw like stick figure animations. Yeah. So that's the no to finger painting in this game. Unfamiliar areas are gated off by the fear of the unknown, which will drain your dopamine meter.
I mean, that happens to me on a daily basis, so I think that's got to be gameplay.
That's gameplay. I'm just so baffled that it's like, when you think of this game, predators can be a sufficient stopgap for keeping you from getting to the later parts of the map. But they also have like fear, like you need to dedicate concentration to be like, I've been here before, to keep your character from going hysterical. There's a button press that's like, conquer your fear, and then you pound your chest and you can access that area without going insane.
That sounds very Disco Elysium-esque.
Yes, yeah. The player character monkey in Ancestors translates to the detective in the Disco Elysium. Your sense of smell and hearing are detective mode-like filters that highlight points of interest.
I would be shocked if that was not gameplay.
Yeah, okay, so you're right. That is gameplay.
Okay. Every game has like detective vision in it.
Yeah. Even The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. The player's skill tree is the primate's central nervous system in which you unlock literal neurons while they sleep.
Unlocking neurons while they sleep seems very oddly specific. I think this is Heathware.
No, that's gameplay.
Oh.
Yeah, they really... Granted, it's like a cool way of doing it. The branches of the skill tree are literal dendritic branches
Okay.
of like a neuron, so which is cool. But definitely, like, you gotta sleep in order to like pick your unlocks, and then you can't make use of the skills you unlock until you make a baby to carry those skills forward into the next generation.
That sounds familiar from the video. I think that's gameplay.
Yeah, that's gameplay. Okay, so like a cool way of doing it. Where
that is cool.
You differentiate between learned skills and evolutionary skills.
Right. That's why it stood out to me in the video,
Yeah.
and I remembered it. It did seem like a really novel idea.
The giraffes with the short necks are not gonna be able to reach the tall leaves until after the species is like adapted.
Right.
So here we go. Earn enough evolution points to skip 1,000,000 years to play as the subsequent species.
Evolution points. It sounds very gamey. I think it's gameplay.
Yeah, that's gameplay. I also kind of hinted to it.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, predators like saber-toothed cats and giant centipedes can be domesticated and support the clan.
There's no way you're domesticating giant centipedes. This is Heathware.
That's Heathware. Don't you wish, though? I could see a certain world in which there are like big birds in this game.
Are there giant centipedes?
Yes.
But you can't domesticate.
No.
Okay.
You got to stab them with your spear.
Gotcha.
I imagine, like, if I was trying to make this card, I was thinking, like, what if they could ride the big birds? That's a fast travel mechanic. Just monkeys on the top of, like, a proto-eagle. Anyway. Every time you mate, there is a chance the baby will have an advantageous mutation, incentivizing you to have as many babies as possible.
Well, that sounds much like real life.
Real life,
So
yeah.
I think that's got to be gameplay.
That's gameplay, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Mating is preceded by a prerequisite grooming minigame in which you earn their trust by picking bugs out of their fur.
That sounds an awful lot like gameplay.
You can make another, like, just like in real life.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
I'm gonna say it's gameplay.
Yeah, you're right. That is gameplay. You have such an eye as a game developer yourself, Chris.
Thank you. You definitely fooled me a few times.
Mm-hmm.
You got me good.
Mm-hmm. Then, this is still the mating quest. Then you have to build a bed out of the leaves of the natal grass cicada plant. Sorry, I said that wrong. The cycad plant.
That seems very specific. Surely this game incorporates like lots of bed building material. I think this is Heathware.
Wait, what'd you say?
This is far too specific. There's got to be like, you got to be able to trick out your bed with all sorts of different kinds of plants.
No, that's gameplay. I mean,
okay.
I haven't played this game myself.
Gotcha.
I looked at a wiki on how to
So maybe
mate.
this is just one of many
I
bed
think
materials.
that plant is across Africa, like the whole continent is just covered in natal grass cycad plants.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah, and like that's their bed of choice. Lastly, you have to get first place in a sperm and egg racing minigame.
There's no way they did that. There's no way. This is Heathware.
That's Heathware. I can't even flip the goddamn thing. There we go. I wish. Don't you wish?
I wish too, yeah.
I wish it was like like the Mario Kart. Bah, bah, bah.
There's like shortcuts too.
Yeah, and item boxes along the way.
Final one.
The final one. If the entire clan is wiped out, you revert to a more primitive mammal and have to work your way back up the evolutionary chain.
Ooh, like punishing you in that fail state.
Yeah.
That almost sounds too punishing based on how grindy you said this game is. But, It does seem like the kind of idea that would get greenlit. I'm going to say this is gameplay.
That's Heathware. Your first thought was right. It would be so annoying if you had to revert back to like the single graspers.
Yeah, that would be. It would be so punishing to lose out on those like fundamental skills that you spent hours grinding for.
Yeah, if your clan does get wiped out, you have to just restart from a checkpoint, I think.
I see.
Yeah,
that was fun. Those were some creative flashcards.
I wish I thought of some more, but as I looked deeper and deeper in this game, and I found out it's like not as fun as it seemed.
I see.
I kind of got demotivated, and
This is another fun on paper game.
It is. I thought that way when I first heard about it because it was so weird.
Nice.
I thought it was going to go a lot further, like around the harness fire, and yeah. So that's my bit.
How long have we been recording?
Oh, like 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours.
Oh, dang.
All right, your bit.
Do we just call this an episode?
No, because like look at this like 15-minute gap here.
Oh, true. All right, let me just take a stretching break.
Yeah, you need a stretch. Yeah.
And when we come back, we'll have a final closing discussion with you. See you then. And we're back. Heath, how are you doing?
I am having such a pleasure-filled life, Chris.
Good. Would you say you're living a good life?
I think my life is pretty good. I have a lot of pleasures and
some experiences.
It's very recreational, and my work is my pleasure. So that's how I quantify things.
I see. Well, that's good. I think job satisfaction is the number one indicator.
I wish I had a job, though. That would help. That would make things feel a little bit better.
Okay, so we have a little conversation topic for this episode.
It's very, very empirical.
Empirical. Okay. Here's what we have to discuss today. A thought experiment.
There was once a philosopher.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about what is sometimes called the pleasure machine thought experiment, more commonly called the experience machine. That's how I'm going to refer to it from here on out. This was a thought experiment originally put forward by a philosopher, Robert Nozick, in his 1974 book, Anarchy, State, and Utopia. That's all the historical background you need. Let's run through this thought experiment, Heath.
Okay.
Let's say such a machine exists called the experience machine. You could opt to plug yourself into this machine. You would be suspended, presumably like nutritional goop.
Just like in a stasis.
Stasis, yet your physical body would be immobile. And all of these electrodes would be put on top of your head. And this experience machine could deliver you any laundry list of experiences you could ever dream up.
Building a birdhouse.
You could build as many birdhouses as you want.
Yay.
You could program the parameters of this experience machine to fit any number of your own desires. And it could completely realistically carry them out inside of your brain. You could climb Mount Everest. You could write the great American novel. You could be highly respected and well-regarded in your field.
All of these things sound really appealing, Chris.
They do. And the sky's the limit. This experience machine does anything you want it to, and it recreates it perfectly. It is indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah.
But it's all happening in your head. Within the actual realm of reality, your body has been floating in a tank.
All those experiences were happening virtually.
There were these digital recreations that, although indistinguishable, did not actually physically occur. So this whole thought experiment asks you, with all this information known, would you decide to willingly plug yourself into the machine? Because the machine could objectively deliver you a more pleasurable life, however you decide to define pleasure.
Yeah, it's just a highlight reel.
A highlight reel, yeah. And this whole thought experiment was made as a critique of hedonism. We've briefly mentioned hedonism on the show before.
When hedonism was initially pitched to me, I thought, that sounds great.
Yeah, so hedonism is the philosophy that the only things that inherently have value in life are pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Pleasure is inherently good, pain is inherently bad.
Your goal in life is to collect pleasurable experiences.
Right. You're trying to maximize your net pleasure, and you do that by avoiding pain and seeking out pleasure.
Yeah. And if you can increase the satisfaction of others in that pursuit, hey, more as a bonus.
Yeah. And the actual definition of pleasure could be a very subjective thing. Like, for example, maybe you feel very fulfilled when you mentor someone or you do help someone in a substantial way. It doesn't necessarily have to be exclusively self-serving. You could get pleasure through the aid of others, if that's how you define pleasure for yourself. You could be totally self-serving as well. So there's different ways to approach hedonism. Hedonism often gets a bad rap because you immediately jump to the most gluttonous and self-serving and selfish individual possible.
Yes.
Which this machine would no doubt do a great job. Attract that type of person because they could have the life they've always wanted.
Yeah, what's to stop them? Yeah.
What's to stop them? And I guess there's several places we could take this conversation, Heath. How do you feel about the pleasure machine?
I feel like I would not be tempted by it because the shame of how not real those experiences would settle in almost immediately after exiting the machine and discourage me from going back in.
Now, there are several little variables you can tweak on this thought experiment, which I think paint it in different colors. One of them is, can you leave once you've entered?
Oh.
Because often this is
That's a
phrased
deal
as,
breaker.
do you choose to plug in for life?
Oh.
And if that was the case, what would you then say? Because now there is no fear of all that regret crashing down on you as soon as you unplug.
Oh.
You will die in the pleasure machine.
Ooh.
And you'll be none the wiser. You'll never know.
Yeah, you never know. Kind of a thing to do to your fellow man.
It is super self-serving because now you help no one ever again.
Right.
You are now a vegetable.
You could do some meaningful things if you're not plugged in.
That's true.
Things that actually do things.
Things that actually, have like societal productivity.
Yeah.
So I guess part of it, if you attribute value to making the world a better place, you'd be hard-pressed to make the world a better place when you were in stasis.
Do we know anyone personally that would plug into such a thing?
Me.
Oh my God!
All right.
I wasn't expecting that. Oh my God. I am like, whoa. I thought you were going to kill me.
Kill you?
I thought you were and you're coming with me, plug in.
So I was hoping you can reel me back into reality here, Heath.
I would like to try.
So let's dig into this.
Oh man. Yeah, look at that. Look at the fear. Like the Greek tragedy.
The primal
of,
fear.
No. Okay. All right. So what do you mean you plug in?
Here's a tricky thing for me to wrap my head around. And that's divorcing experience from doing. Because in reality, the act of doing and of obtaining experience, they're intrinsically
one and the same.
They're intrinsically tied together.
Yep.
Experience is merely the byproduct of doing. So to suddenly enter a simulation where the doing no longer occurs, but you still get the experience, it's tough for me to reconcile that.
You're approaching this like an engineer.
Well,
where it's like, if I can reduce the material cost of a result, why would I not? It's free energy.
Yeah. Like, to some extent, why do anything to get the experience? To get the experience. And experience is kind of like the lasting reward.
Yes.
And
it's your only
if
takeaway. It's not the only takeaway. I had a great.
Oh,
yeah.
You have a rebuttal to that?
Well, I mean,
it kind of feels like the only takeaway.
No, not if the brick that you lay allows for someone to cross that bridge.
I see. I was thinking, like, it seems like all reward all the time.
All reward. That's the title. Why do you say that?
Because you get all the advantages of living the life you've wanted, of doing the things you've wanted to do. You get all the perks of doing it without any of the fear of failure, without anything ever going wrong.
Right.
It's an ideal life. It seems that way.
But Chris,
Yeah.
your bubble fantasy of the machine has to be so attractive to dissuade the possibility that you could just make that life for yourself and have others appreciate it. To think that I could plug myself into this thing and never know failure.
Yeah.
Or I could do my best, fail at least once. But if this run, like, think of this as like a roguelike. If I do a good enough run, it'll plan. Is it called Plan G? What's Nier Automata's credits?
Ending E?
Yeah, is that it? Okay, ending E in Nier Automata, where you're helping other
people. Yeah.
Without going too far into it. Wouldn't that be worth the trials and tribulations just so that other people can get the assist? I feel like I'm a support class by not putting myself in the machine.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like inside this perfect recreation of reality, I am helping more virtual people than I've ever helped in the real world.
Exactly.
And getting more admiration.
Virtual.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know that they're virtual.
That tracks not at all.
All right, here, I'm going to get kind of dark for a second.
Okay, go for it.
I hang out with you because you bring a lot of value to my life.
I sure do. That goes without saying.
I think you're very funny. You're charismatic.
Yay.
Your metaphors are S tier. For all these reasons and many more, I appreciate being in your company. And try as I might, in this plane of existence we live in, there's no way I can ever peer into your consciousness. I can never touch your soul. For all intents and purposes, you and any other person I meet is kind of like a black box where I can feed you input and I never see the inner workings of your mind.
I output gold.
Yeah, output gold. And I'm very appreciative of the gold, but I'm never privy to that inside process. So even though in this simulation, even though these are virtual people,
even though you're unaware of the contents of the black box,
even though they are soulless, and I'm not privy to that,
right?
They still,
you know no difference between the output of a virtual thing.
They are just as much a black box to me as you are. The fact that they're soulless does not register.
But surely it does.
How though?
Because you've been in the machine for like 60 years, and you're coming down with like virtual cancer, and you're on your deathbed with your virtual family, and you're like, oh, I lived a good virtual life, and then you draw your last breath, and you're telling me you wouldn't have like an existential crisis of being like, I've just sat in a bathtub for 60 years.
In the scenario I'm envisioning, I don't know about the bathtub. Upon entering,
you're wiped.
I'm wiped. No, there are different scenarios here where yes, there is one people debate where yes, you enter and you still know about the old reality.
Right.
The more common one is you don't.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not regretting these.
As soon as you entered the machine, you were immediately transported to 10th grade you,
or wherever
being
you
very
pick.
Cool,
savoir-faire off the charts.
Yeah.
Finger guns coming out.
No idea that you've just thrown your life into the recycling bin. Okay, so that I can understand a smidge more.
Okay.
Not even a little empathizing with your decision.
Okay.
But
it's a selfish decision.
Yeah, you're acknowledging that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you're saying, surely I am enough of a common man to empathize with everybody else going through the human condition, just trying to get through scot-free. And to think that I could very much plug myself in and never no worry, but that would be really uncool to the protesters and everybody else that's trying to hang in there.
So I guess I never knew this about myself. I guess I'm being ousted as like a card-carrying hedonist here.
Yeah.
Here's my next question I want to pose. Why do we...
I'm not yet done.
Not done?
Well, there's so... I was gonna... It's so apparent how little you value the well-being of the real people. Are you assuming that in a good run of Chris the Life that you're not gonna do earth-shattering things? Because I immediately think of, like, if I do all the things I want to do, it would be really shitty to not do them if I just sat in a bathtub.
I see.
What's your S tier run?
My S tier run in like real life?
In the real, like, the game, the life, yeah.
Well, just looking around, it's to have like an impactful life would be the exception, not the rule.
Say that again?
To have like a truly impactful life here on Earth, you would be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, so you're assuming that the exception is beyond...
I'm not going to bet on the exception.
Wow.
I play expected value. I learned statistics.
Oh, okay.
Do you play the lottery every single week, Heath? It's not in your best interest.
No, but every day is a new ticket. That's pretty sick.
That was profound, maybe.
Yeah. I'm scratching every day.
Here's something that sounds crazy at first, but here's my rebuttal.
Yeah, sure.
Why do you inherently devalue the people's lives you would touch in this experience machine compared to the lives of people here on Earth? Because there's an opportunity cost. If I go into the machine, I am no longer having an impact here on Earth, but I'm having an impact there in the simulation. Or vice versa. I could have an impact here on Earth and not in the simulation.
But it's not real.
But what's real?
I know. That was like the simplest response to what you just said. But what's real?
Yeah.
Like where we are right now, out of the machine.
Out of the machine. Okay.
Yeah.
So is it because we have access to like all of our senses that makes this real? Because you have all your senses in the machine.
Oh, okay, so this only works if I'm aware of what's real and what's in the machine once I'm plugged in.
Right.
I could be the coolest, most philanthropic, sympathetic, like you said, and leave a lasting impact on all of my the audience, if you will, in the machine. But it wouldn't make a difference because I know once my brain shuts off, they don't exist anymore. Right?
I guess that depends on whether your brain is like powering it.
This is like a spiritual. I mean, even if it didn't. Okay, even if they did still exist,
they could keep the server running.
And they were just like a portrait of this is Heath was so good in the machine. Look where he left off, and I'm just like it's just a me at the top of the leaderboard. What does that serve?
What does it serve?
Yeah. So what if you have a very shiny world that you've built for yourself in this very like Minecraft creative mode bucket that you're in? Mm-hmm. Why do I devalue those lives? Because it's not the worst things could happen to those. I could SimCity send a meteor to hit them.
Yeah.
And be like, woe is me. Oh, never forget. Yeah, like 1,000 9/11s could happen in the machine and it wouldn't matter.
Wouldn't matter compared to what?
Compared to real life, because they don't, who cares? They're not real. They're in the machine.
But what meaningfully differentiates them between us.
We gotta watch The Matrix. We gotta watch The Matrix. You know, like in Matrix 2, they take things to another level. You know, because in Matrix 1, everything's kind of precious, and you're just trying to like survive. You get out of the Matrix, and then they take the fight to them. And Agent Smith is going around, and you've seen the fight where Neo fights like 100 of them.
Yeah.
So he gets to be 100 of them by like stabbing the walking simulation-y people in the heart and converting them. You're telling me that you would empathize with this virtual person who's clearly just like a Matrix NPC.
I mean,
and when he gets converted by Agent Smith, you're like, oh no, and not, well, he got another one. Like,
in this scenario, it wouldn't be at all clear to me that they're clearly a virtual NPC.
But they're just like...
They would be as flesh and blood as you.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
We said indistinguishable between reality and
But they
the
know they're in the
simulation.
Matrix. Okay, are you reintroducing the caveat that you don't know the difference?
I'm saying I don't know the difference, and I can never leave. And it's a guarantee to have more net positive experiences happen in my life. I think it would be the better life.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue and say it would be the worst life. Except I am if you maintain that had you stuck around in the real world rather than hit the ejector seat, you might have been able to do some good for humankind rather than friggin' bleep bloop kind because you're all ones and zeros with your virtual friends.
All right, I think we're starting to go in circles here, but I want to introduce a new component to this.
Sure.
What would you say to the opinion that video games could be called crude experience machines?
Because they provide pleasure, be it a challenge to be faced or just fun to be had. Yeah, you could spend your whole life playing games and enjoying yourself until your life is over.
Mm-hmm.
And 900 out of 901 people
Interesting ratio.
it's a go-to ratio, would be like, that's stupid and a waste of your time.
Right. Hence the crude part. These are nowhere close to being a perfect
analogous,
recreation
yeah.
of reality. Although, strides have been made, especially with something like full room scale VR happening.
Chat, yeah.
It seems like we're being able to incorporate more and more of the human senses into these virtual experiences. Even like actual things like...
No, you're not going to say smell. Maybe touch.
Yeah, there's physicality to VR and like actually using your hands and
Sorry,
body
when
to
you
move
said
around.
senses, is that where you were going?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was going for.
Okay.
So video games offer you a plethora of different experiences you get to temporarily
Chris,
inhabit.
If we had a friend who did nothing but like play video games and enjoy themselves and could afford to do so, are you looking on that friend being like, boy, I would trade places instantly?
Probably.
What? Why?
You
make it sound like you would.
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't fully paying attention. Here's my hang up, Heath. The devaluing of the digital compared to the physical, I guess. So I work in my day job as a software engineer, and a lot of my time is spent on the computer, just inherently.
Wait, are you like... Daisy says, hello world, and you're like, hello. You treat it like you're failing the Turing test yourself.
Whoa, okay. My job is with making software to presumably help people. And I work at a payroll company. So it's things like moving money between banks and making sure people get paid on time.
Yeah.
And with the current situation, this primarily digital job has become even more digitized with working remotely. I no longer meet with flesh and blood coworkers. They've all been reduced to simply text messages and occasionally disembodied voices. This was the case before, but I'm told the work I do makes sure that people get paid on time. And I'm pretty certain if I went out in the world and found an actual client and then sat with them on payday and saw the money arrive in their bank account and walked with them to an ATM and saw them make a withdrawal, I could prove to myself that the work I do actually has a tangible result on the real world.
Right, yeah.
I have never done that, no matter how long I work at this company, even if it's the rest of my life.
Nor is it even feasible.
I'm probably never going to do that.
Right.
So the only guarantee I have that my job makes an impact
is your employers say
is
so.
someone has told me so. It is super abstracted. My work and its worldwide impact is, for all intents and purposes, this abstract concept that I could be true, maybe not. And that's enough for me. That imbues my work with meaning. And all it took was a simple sentence. You are doing this work and it matters. Now to have an entire recreation of reality that you are put into in this experience machine, where for my actions to be meaningful, all it took was a sentence in the real world. Imagine this entire fabrication that it took millennia of human engineering to create. And all of that is now convincing me that my work has meaning. I'm going to believe it 100%.
Say that again. Sorry, say that again. If
this feat of human engineering, the experience machine, has been created to fabricate this illusion of the utmost success.
Yeah.
And imbues everything I do with meaning and relevance and importance.
You would totally believe that 100%.
I believe it 100%.
Because
in reality,
it's no different from you taking that man for his word that your work is...
In fact, it's way more believable. Because I make the experience whatever I want it to be, I can on a daily basis be seeing how much of an impact my actions are having on this virtual world. When in reality, all it took was a mere sentence that I never even bothered to confirm to imbue my life with meaning. This is going to be way better.
Maybe it's just because of our difference in career. Because I work in entertainment.
Yeah.
So I constantly see how people react to my work.
But if you plug in, you could get so many more reactions and better reactions and have more net pleasure and make even better movies.
And not even know.
You're leaving potential on the table if you don't plug in. You are electing to take the worst deal.
How do I articulate the fact that because they're not real, it matters little?
I'm trying to articulate that. Have you heard, like, it's impossible to confirm anyone else's consciousness?
Yeah. We're getting into simulation theory.
Right, because I said you're a black box to me for all intents and purposes. I'm pretty sure you've got a soul, but there's no way to know.
You're pretty sure. You have no alternative to not assume that I do.
Right.
Because what else? Yeah. You either assume that like everybody is a simulation or none of it is.
Yeah.
So why would I pass up plugging into the machine and enjoying all the best reactions from all the stuff that I do and be the best version of myself? And everyone in there acknowledges it to the extent that I want them to. And I wouldn't know the difference. If somebody pulled up to me and was like, Chris plugged in like yesterday, I would have been like, but he could have done so much here. And here matters.
I feel like it matters equally.
No, okay, you say that because you think that you wouldn't know any better.
Right. Indistinguishable.
But clearly, wait, why would it matter?
To reel it back into the games for a second, you were a big fan of Outer Wilds.
Yeah.
And you thought like, ooh, this indie team, their first big hit, how ingenious. And you played through it and you had some really good times. When you were done and you closed the game for the final time, did you think to yourself, man, that was a shame that experience I just had was just a video game?
That's a shame that experience was just a video game.
Yeah. Did that invalidate it for you? I don't value the experience a video game offers me any less than sitting down with you guys to play a cool board game.
Right.
It's not like, oh man, this was a virtual piece of entertainment. What a shame. No, I value them equally. They both provide equal value in my life, and I hold them to the same level. Because it took place in a digital environment, I'm not automatically inherently valuing it any less. They have an equal capacity to bring value to your life.
Right.
And
I'm glad I played that game. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like a perfect reconstruction of our world, albeit a digital one, would bring equal value to my life. Except,
if not more, yeah.
Except it would bring more because you get to make it exactly how you want it to be. So in a world where this is a reality, and there's the moral...
It's getting more and more a reality, yeah.
Right. There's a moral question of, should we be concerned if we're able to produce a simulation that's better than reality? Is that a moral problem? Because then some portion of the population would choose a better virtual reality over a less good physical one.
And my gut reaction is just like, nah, if they don't care enough about the real world to stick around, fuck them. Let's just let them sit in their little Pandora's box.
I see.
Which is directly like, fuck you.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But for us to successfully build one of these, we have to be in a pretty good place in our world. Mm-hmm. It's almost like for something like this to be a reality,
utopia.
You'd think we'd be probably post-scarcity by then. Mm-hmm. How many more problems do we need to solve here? This is like the pinnacle of achievement, to make literally any fantasy a reality.
This is better than like the Alpha Centauri kind of, yeah.
I could see how in a situation where Earth has become a dystopia, where only the billionaires have access to these things and everyone else lives in wage slavery and has abysmal quality of life, then plugging into these would be pretty bad.
But let's assume that the world's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And you're saying that if that were the case...
I'd plug in even faster.
Oh my God! Chris. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, imagine you go on to cure cancer if you don't plug in. And that's the lottery to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying it is statistically more likely that you have a near negligent impact on the real world if you choose to stick around.
Yes, just going by the numbers.
I mean, yeah, we'll never cross that. We'll never come to terms with that.
Yeah.
Because
I see that.
Despite my agnosticism and cynicism, I still feel, and maybe this is just egoism, I still feel that I have a statistical probability that I will leave this life way better than when I found it.
That's good.
And if I were to plug in and my future never actualizes, it would be robbing the future of everything I intend to bring it.
Of the gift that was Heath.
Look at my Santa's bag of everything I have for the future. And you are just taking a lighter to that bag, being like, just plug in, baby. We got amazing pleasures in this machine.
You don't have to burn the bag, though. You take it with you, and the bag gets bigger because you can accomplish more.
Yeah, but let's look inside that bag. It's empty. Because if it's not in real life, it doesn't matter. Regardless of your consciousness.
Why do you play video games then?
Because I like the flashy lights when I headshot the guys.
Apparently none of it matters, though. So clearly you're just wasting your time.
Apparently none of it matters because I'm wasting my time because...
You said only things in real life matter whatsoever.
And video games are not in the real world.
They're not.
Okay, let's trace this through line. I play games for my own enjoyment and for the enjoyment of others, but we'll ignore that. My time spent on video games, despite not being like digging wells in the Congo, yes,
crude version of the experience
playing
machine.
By plugging myself into this crude version of the experience machine, I am not being altruistic and therefore a dick. But you would say that I'm not being a dick because it's just a...
Yeah.
But you are a dick.
Is it the temporary versus permanent plugin that is holding you up here?
Well, explain that.
Because I'm saying I'm plugging into this experience machine for life.
Yeah. You're checking out.
But you routinely plug into the crude experience machines of video games on the reg.
I was about to say, yeah.
But apparently that's not this morally reprehensible thing that you do.
Right, because I can play games, but still complete my life's mission. Wow, I'm sounding like a God-fearing whatever.
Okay. What would you tell someone who has no ambition, is unable to reach, cannot complete higher education, is stuck in a dead-end job, has no promising prospects? Are they morally apprehensible for plugging in?
Yeah,
Are you just holding me to a really high standard for some reason?
Why? Because I know the things you can accomplish if you don't plug in? Yeah.
I can't do much.
Wow. Value yourself as much as I value you.
Aw, thanks.
Yay. Fuck you too. Yeah. Anyway, what would I tell that person, you asked? No, because they don't know. They don't know. You know Childish Gambino, the rapper?
I don't.
Donald Glover is his actor name.
I see.
He's very talented. In one of his rap songs, he explains that his father owned half the MoMA and did it with no diploma.
Oh, okay.
So, to the person who might be disenfranchised and unable to and no ambition, I just say, have ambition, bruh. What do I mean, I can't go on and preach that, but no, there's two, in conclusion, because I could see that we're approaching 3 hours, which is insane. I understand where you're coming from, and the parallels to your actual real life right now are harrowing, and that's like you have a TED Talk just waiting to burst out. But to that person with no ambition, who might just be you, no, I say there's no way of knowing the lengths at which you would leave a lasting impact on the real world if you stuck around. And that is enough to not plug in. You can play video games and kill time that way, and it literally is killing time. But as long as you do it in moderation and you apply yourself in ways that are for the common good, you'll be way more rewarded than if you were to plug yourself into the machine and not care, because you're just getting everything you always want and never knowing the difference. The fact of the matter is, as long as it's real, it's what matters. And then what do you say to that? You say, but how do you know what's real? Mm-hmm. And then, like, I also get trapped in the simulation argument.
Right. The argument that we're in a simulation already.
Right.
And we're just plugging into a deeper one.
Okay.
A deeper, better one.
Yeah. Or even the reverse is you're in a simulation, and if you were to plug into this machine, you would get to the real...
You eject.
Did you see the cartoon where you eat the silica gel?
No.
Eat silica gel cartoon. You know how the packages say do not eat? Right? Because they'll dehydrate you?
Yeah. These silica gel industry big shots can't tell me what to do. Oh, the silica gel is the hack to get out of the simulation.
It's the red pill, and it's like you escaped. So, where do we go from here, Chris? I would love to hear what the audience has to say. What do you feel? Do you feel like the majority of the people listening to the show would be like, I empathize with Chris?
I'd say like
or did we just lose half of our listenership? Because we just did a 3-hour podcast.
Probably my guess, pulling this out of my ass, is a 35-65 split in your favor.
Because the average person
inherently attributes more value
have ambition
to reality.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
they feel like they discern a difference.
I haven't been able to find a reason I don't find arbitrary that would make me imbue reality with more value than this perfect recreation of reality. The differences
How can you say that?
They seem arbitrary to me.
The real world and then this perfect world are indistinguishable.
You value the real world more because you tell yourself it's the real world.
Right, yeah, because I don't have a choice otherwise. I don't give a crap about the afterlife because I can't see it, but I can see this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I'm in a fishbowl, I'm gonna swim.
But you could go from a fishbowl to a whole lake and do a lot more swimming.
Right. I could swim in the lake.
And the water tastes just as good.
And if not better, yeah. But I couldn't do that to my fellow guppies, despite the fact that I need not worry once I'm in there in the lake.
Uh-huh.
There's no future so good that I would feel in good conscience leaving the real world, which is not real, but it's real.
Sounds like you have a limited imagination.
Chris, okay. What's your perfect world then?
Oh man, I'd have to.
Like I said, you immediately go to like 10th grade, and you're so cool. Do you have like this underdog story, or is it just a total highlight reel?
Good.
Let's dive into
which would
the
I
Chris
value
machine.
more? I'm late for dinner. I have
All right, yeah.
It sounds like we're agreeing to disagree here. You definitely made me question some things. It looks like you questioned a few things. I hope our listeners found this to be an entertaining conversation.
Gosh. This will be the most interesting feedback we would have gotten.
We're going to lose some listeners.
Maybe.
So this has been Mobius Tubes episode 41.
We will come back to this.
If you want to rein us in, you should probably send us some emails.
Somebody give me a concrete argument to give to Chris, so he doesn't just poo-poo the emails. And you're the only one that looks at the emails.
Yeah.
I'm ready for one to just red pill you, and then you gut reaction delete it, even though it's like a solid persuasive argument, just so you can stay in your fantasy land.
Yeah. You can write us those emails by sending us one at the address mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
And I hope you've enjoyed this very lengthy episode. See you next time.
Ay, ay, ay. Oh my God.